Welcome to Leaders in the Arena. My name is Jenny Whitener, and I am the CEO of Bridge Innovate. For over 20 years, we've empowered leaders to think, lead, and problem solve differently. Today, we have the opportunity to speak to an amazing leader of a nonprofit organization to talk about the power of vision and strategy. This series generally is designed to help share these inspirational stories of lessons learned, tips, and guidance from leaders who are actually in the arena and achieving great results today. So it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Lucy Rymer. She's the Executive Director at the Museum and Cultural Center at Five Points in Cleveland, Tennessee. Lucy is the Executive Director and of the Chattanooga area's only Smithsonian-affiliated museum located in Cleveland, Tennessee. She moved to Cleveland after graduating from Middle Tennessee State University with her Master's of Business Administration. During her tenure as Executive Director of the Museum and Cultural Center at Five Points, Lucy is credited with a complete organizational turnaround by reinvigorating the museum's relevance in the community, providing new and diverse programs, completing essential capital projects, all while paying off debts and growing the museum's endowment fund. And believe me, I've had a chance to team up with her, and you're going to be amazed with this story. Lucy also enjoys being involved in her community, where she is an active member of Rotary Club of Cleveland, the United Way Young Professionals of Cleveland, Bradley County Chamber of Commerce, and serves on the Junior Achievement Board, as well as other multiple philanthropic organizations. So, Lucy, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled you're here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, it was just so exciting when I remember months ago when we got your call and you were contemplating a strategic plan. We were so thankful to have the chance to team up with you and your board to launch a new vision and strategy process. And thanks so much for today for spending the time to share that story with us and our listeners. I know we have a number joining us live today. So anything else you'd like to tell the group in terms of a bit about yourself or to help the audience know more about you?
Sure. Well, it's funny. I came into this role a little bit by accident. That's what I always tell people, and they say, how in the world did you end up here by accident?" And I was serving on our board of directors during COVID, and our previous executive director retired. We were in a little bit of a situation where we didn't feel like we had the ability to hire an executive director because we just, like many arts and cultural or tourist organizations, during that time, we weren't doing so great. And so I said, you know what, I'll just step in and I'll just do it for a little while. And we'll see if we can make it work. And lo and behold, 4 years later, things are going a lot better than they were. But at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had a previous career in banking. After our second child, I decided I wanted to stay home. And so I had the pleasure of serving on the PTO and different school board committees and different, philanthropies in our community. And one thing led to another, and here I am. So it's fun. I have a small zoo at home too. I know, something funny about me. We have 2 horses, 2 dogs, a cat, a rabbit, and 2 snakes. So you
Life
never
is
know
full.
what's going to happen in my house. So
Life.
I needed to start working so I could have some sanity.
No, it's interesting that you talk about how full your life is because when I know that getting to know you more and the board at the museum, you all have an extremely full plate. And, it's been interesting. I wanted to start off by talking about the challenges that you are facing at the beginning when we first started looking at the visioning and strategy process. And I want you to talk about that. Some of that we've alluded to in your intro, right, where you said that you came into the museum at a time when there were difficulties. And there's been a big part of that turnaround that you've led, but you were kind of ready to go to the next level. So talk about the challenges that the museum was facing when we started working together on this next generation of vision and strategy.
Sure. So one of our I'm going to say it's a good challenge to have. We during COVID, we were in a bad spot. We got out of that bad spot. We had fulfilled everything that we set out to do as far as paying off our debt. We had completed a large number of capital projects, and things were going really, really well for us. But we really had no plan in place to carry us forward into the future. And we knew that if we wanted to achieve some of these bigger initiatives that we have, like renovating our exhibit hall, or potentially building a stage in our courtyard, or really growing to that next level, a clear plan and a path forward was something that we desperately needed. We also had some issues going on internally, in the terms of a lack of process and procedure, and formalized goals for employees. When an organization is basically taken down to nothing, and you have to rebuild from the very beginning, you really kind of have to start over. But trying to do all of that and implement that while also implementing new strategy and new programs, and becoming more ingrained in the community, and doing it with a very small staff. You just have a lot of competing goals and initiatives. So we needed some clear direction on how to scale all of these different goals that we had in order to meet our long-term vision.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like to me that as a cultural center and the central hub there in Cleveland for that with arts and culture, you had so many possibilities of directions that you could go. And once you had kind of stabilized the museum, this was the point, right? This was the next stage of growth for you all, was describing and getting clear on that vision process. So talk to us a little bit about the visioning and strategy process that you went through and what you were looking for in that approach.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the most important things I feel like we did with you, Jenny, is that community collaboration session that we had, where we had so many representatives come and join us for a day of, exploration of how we can better collaborate with our other nonprofits and downtown partners and other arts and cultural institutions in Cleveland and the Ocoee region. That was a huge part of creating this vision for us, of not just what do we want, but also what does our community need us to be. So that was a great thing that we did. Of course, we had people here from, gosh, it was the library, from Artists Here Partnership, which is our local arts agency. We had members of the community, the Cleveland Bradley Chamber of Commerce, Lee University, which is right across the street. We had people from our local government here. So it was a wonderful visioning session for us. That was, I think, a big part of it. And then, of course, we also had a lot of board participation. We had a lot of participation from our staff as well, because we felt it was very important for everyone to have buy-in on the plan, and everyone to understand from the beginning where we were going and the purpose that we wanted to fill within our community. So as far as the day-to-day of what we did with you, I felt like, gosh, I talked to you probably 100 hours a week for a solid 2 months.
Right.
So we did a lot of planning, a lot of talking, a lot of surveying of our constituents, if you will, of our community, of people, of stakeholders, our funders, to get a good idea of where we were succeeding, where maybe we could do a little bit better, and maybe fill some gaps of what does the community want that we're not providing yet, or maybe we could provide a little bit more of. And then, of course, several meetings in person, day-long sessions with the board of directors to kind of firm up our final strategic initiatives. And then especially what I enjoyed about our planning process was coming up with those key performance indicators and steps that we can take and scaling those over the next 5 years so it becomes attainable for us.
One of the things you talked about at the beginning on the visioning process, bringing in those collaborative partners, I really felt, being there with you, I really felt the power of that. So many organizations, when they think about what is our next step, we understand, if you're in leadership, you understand that you need a vision. But one of the things I think you did by engaging all those constituencies, you engaged key partners in the community, you engaged your staff, you engaged your board, you did an open survey, you really reached out to try to get input from all those that you touch or could touch with the museum and cultural center, to gather their perspective, to really be open to listening, to help use that to shape the vision. So often I think when an organization can go multiple direction, it's that compelling vision about what do we see ahead? What's the future hold for us? And
Mhm.
how do we articulate that gets us aligned, right? That really helps us focus the work so that we can make the impact that we're intentional to make. And I love the fact that you, as an executive director, called on the community and they all came very
They all
excited
came.
to
They
say,
did.
it's
It made
great.
me feel very special. And if you don't mind, I think maybe we should put up the visioning
Yeah.
statement so everyone can see what we came up with. Um, and I will say, since we had that community collaboration session, and I know it was something that we didn't originally ask for, we called just for the strategic plan. You mentioned that a lot of people were doing the community collaboration sessions, and we said, this is exactly what we need. In Cleveland, and I don't know who all may be listening with us, but in Cleveland, we're going through a big downtown revitalization right now. I know when you were here doing our strategic plan, the front road into the museum, Inman Street, was closed, completely closed down. It is now reopened, but business is starting to thrive down here. We're seeing new businesses come into our downtown area, and it's an exciting time to be in Cleveland. And it's an exciting time to be downtown. So we felt like this is the time for our community to really come together and figure out, how do we work together to make downtown Cleveland a destination, not just for our residents, but for our, everyone. I don't even want to say Southeast Tennessee. How do we make it a destination that anyone wants to come to and say they've got arts, they've got culture, we've got outdoor adventure. You can come to Cleveland and you can have that small town experience and still have, a lot of innovative programming and things that are interesting to young and old alike. So this is our visioning statement. And if you don't mind, I'll just read it to everybody. By 2029, the Museum and Cultural Center at Five Points will be a vibrant hub for cultural and educational activities, widely recognized for its innovative programming, robust community partnerships, and significant contributions to the preservation of local history and promotion of the arts. The museum will be a must-visit destination for all residents and visitors alike, offering diverse exhibits, events, and learning opportunities that reflect the unique character of the region. And I like, as we're going through this visioning statement, it's funny how different things will stand out to you at different times. For me, when I read this today, it's the unique character of our region. What makes Cleveland special and the Ocoee region special. And maybe it's hitting me today because we have a great big intertribal native festival coming up on Saturday. So we're really honing in on our unique character.
Right. And I remember when we went through the strategic planning process and we were looking at data and we were looking at the survey results of what people were telling you. And these unique events that you, like the tribal festival or the quilt show, things that were very unique that you were able to bring together that really demonstrated the cultural aspects, the artistic aspects, and the educational component of all those things for the region. It seemed to be magical, and people just flock to attend. I mean, some of your greatest participative or events are those that are these unique cultural aspects, right?
Right, right. And it's been interesting over the past couple years. We've had the opportunity to, through our concert series, branch out and provide a little bit different experience. We have had a couple of different, like I'm going to call it fusion bands. So we had Country Gone Bang. It's Korea's only bluegrass band. They were here. We followed that with Larry and Joe, which is Latin grass. It's a blend of Latin music and bluegrass, which was just unbelievable. And it's really made us think, like, how can we do more of this? So even in September, our next, that's 2025, so it kicks off our next concert series for the next fiscal year. We are going to have a local bluegrass band that is going to be doing a spin on German polka music. Like, it's going to be an Oktoberfest themed Music Under the Stars concert, but local bluegrass fused with German music. Traditional German music. And they're so excited. A lot of these guys graduated from Lee University. They were music majors and they were required to sing in German to to graduate. So they're excited that they're getting to use some of these skills and really showcase what they're capable of as artists. And we're getting to provide a unique experience for our community that has actually been asked for. A lot of times people have said, why haven't you done anything about German culture yet? And I'm like, well, it's coming. So,
I mean, here it is. And Lucy, the interesting part about strategy, right? We at Bridge, we work with for-profit organizations, nonprofit organizations. What an entity is always looking for is that distinctive play, that uniqueness, the distinctive characteristic that they bring to their constituencies. And I really felt like the Museum and Cultural Center, through this process, became even more focused on what is the unique gift that you bring to those in your community and the visitors who visit your community that you can deliver on. And it just came through loud and clear in the statement, and it came through loud and clear in your strategy. One of the things that you were so successful at was getting the engagement of your board and your staff. Talk to people who are thinking about a nonprofit strategy process, about the pros and cons or the benefits of having both staff and board engaged. Talk a little bit about that, because a lot of executive directors toil with that decision.
well, and we had a discussion about it as the board too. Not all of the board members necessarily were comfortable with my staff being involved, but at the end of the day, my opinion is this, and I think it's just true. The people that end up enforcing this plan, the boots on the ground, are my staff. So while we didn't include all employees in all of our meetings, we did include my two director level employees, and that would be my curator of collections and education and my events director as well. They are, if I'm the head, they're my two arms. And, it's up to them to, help enforce our strategy and help make sure that we're making progress along that plan. So to me, it's only fair to include them and get their input, because they really are the people that see our customers day to day. They're the ones that are there leading our programs. They're the ones that are there, when we have an event, getting feedback and saying, well, hey, I would really like, I don't know. It'd be great if you had a stage out here so the people were elevated a little bit higher and maybe the sound is a little better. So I feel like it's important to get your staff involved from the very beginning, because they're the ones that, in the end, they're going to make it happen for you. And the board, I mean, and we've had this conversation this week with my board. I can't do this alone. Every executive director needs support. You need multiple voices spreading your message and sharing your vision. And that's what your board is there to help you do. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive board. They're all involved with multiple organizations within the community. I feel like they have a really wide reach. And again, with having a small staff, I have to rely on my board to give me vital input and support to help carry the mission and the vision forward.
We talk about a lot of times that a strategy process is a change process. And we've also talked about that oftentimes change done to us versus change done by us, and the power of change done by us. And I think what you've done by engaging the staff and by engaging the board is you've invited them to architect the future with you. And that buy-in, we saw it all throughout the process, and the imagining, the what if, the declaration of the strategy. And now, just as you're saying, they're ready to support you. Their boots on the ground. The board and the staff are ready to act and to really mobilize the strategy, because they were part of designing it. And so that continuity, I think, comes into play really, really well.
I think so.
So,
And I would just make a side note for, anyone that's considering this. it wasn't always easy conversations, right? Everyone didn't always agree. And I think you have to be comfortable with yourself as a leader that there may be times that, your employees have expertise that you just don't have. And I have expertise that they don't have. And I think you have to be at a place within your self-confidence in yourself as a leader that you can, receive input from your employees and truly value what they have to say, because that's where your growth really comes in, for everyone on your team.
Right. And one of the other things that you did that I thought was so powerful around this key stakeholder engagement was you put together a sponsor team, right?
Mhm.
Where you had a number of board members. I think there were five board members, and then you had yourself and then your two director levels. And that sponsor team really was a key contributor and driver. There were times when you invited the entire board to participate if they so chose to give of their time and to engage, and many of them did. But you had that core team of like past presidents and very key involved board members that were really there day to day with you throughout the strategy design process. And I felt like that call that you made early on, getting them engaged as that leadership team for the strategy was really significant.
Mhm. Absolutely. And, again, I have a very supportive board, and that group, that sponsor team, it kind of became a joke. We would have a day off and they'd be like, we don't have a meeting today. We don't get, we're not going to be together today. And it's like, no, not today. And they're like, well, do I get a parking spot like reserved? Because I'm here every day. So it is
That's
a lot of work. I feel like, that's something that your board really does need to be aware of on the front end, is that, for about, how long did it take us? 12, it didn't take us 12 weeks. It took us
yeah,
eight
it was about
weeks, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it was kind of fast and furious, but for those 8 weeks, it does take a lot of effort. And it does take a lot of time and input. I know one of my board members told me, those were his days off, and he chose to spend them helping us create this new plan for the museum. And how good does that make me feel as a leader, that you have people that are willing to do that and give you their time off to help create something good for the community.
Right, right. Well, I know that for those who are joining us live, they won't be able to read this entire slide that's in front of us, but especially for those who are listening in, talk a little bit about the output. You had this engagement of all these folks, you went through visioning. Talk a little bit about what's in your strategy and where you're going to be focused.
Sure. So we came up with these 5 different strategic initiatives for the next 5 years. The first was to mature internal operations, which again, I think is a result of how far back we had to pull ourselves to it during COVID to move forward. We we're so focused on surviving, we lost a lot of the things that help an organization thrive, right? Like having those goals and a ways to assess your performance, and really be able to measure those. So I thought this was good, where we, had some key performance indicators to help us along the way of making sure our staff had goals, that we were achieving those goals. The next one was communications and engagement. Again, when you're thriving, there's you're able to do a little bit more, and that's what we're trying to get to, a stage of thriving, right? We've survived for long enough, and now we're going to do better. A part of that in a small town, really in any town, this business is all about your connections, right? And being able to, fill a need. So we really wanted to be able to spread our reach into the community, collaborate with more organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, for example, or Lee University, who's right across the street. Museums always have great partnerships with universities because we have so many opportunities for internships. So we set goals of, growth in our communication systems, just getting the word out and helping people understand who we are, the role we fill, and that we're here in our community. Establishing new collaborations with other organizations, not just in Cleveland, but I feel like regionally, and Jenny, we've made good progress along that goal too. That we have a good way to sustain our organization through these activities that makes us not so donor dependent, which that gets into another one of our goals down the road. But I know we're a little limited on time, so I won't go too deep into it. But we've got our other three goals were exhibits and educational programs to create more diverse programs so that we're reaching more sects of our community, especially our underserved populations. Financial sustainability and development. One thing that I think we've always struggled with is we've been very donor dependent, and we would like to see ourselves become more reliant on our earned revenue streams. Like we do offer bar and catering service and event rentals, our concert series and ticketed sales to other, events of that nature. And then of course, development activities, writing more grants, increasing our membership base. And our last goal is our master plan and capital campaign. So we want to create a lookbook for the next 5 years of things that we're hoping to achieve. Of course, the big goal is to renovate our exhibit hall. And that's going to take a capital campaign. So we're looking at even expanding beyond the board, creating a capital campaign committee that can specifically help us raise the funds that we need to raise.
What I
One
really,
thing, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing I like about this strategy and the way we've laid it out is these goals are not unlike goals that we've set for past strategic plans before my time. Again, I've been here since 2021 is when I started. So this is the first real strategic plan that I've done here. But there have been 4 or 5 other strategic plans in the museum's past. And we did not look at those plans before we made this plan. We kind of went into this fresh slate, clean slate. And at the end of the day, we set these goals and I started looking back. It's our 25th anniversary. I was going to make a presentation and I came across the other plan documents and I was like, wow, this really isn't that much different. But what is different is the setting out of the KPIs and giving ourselves a path to actually achieve these goals, not just saying, well, it would be nice if we were more financially sustainable, or it would be nice if we had no debt. It would be nice if we could renovate the exhibit hall. This plan actually sets out how are we going to achieve it. And I really like that.
Right. I do feel like that you guys got into enough depth in your planning that you began to see this prioritization of the things that were most important to invest in, both to achieve financial stability that would sustain you and help you grow, and then this unique programming and how that would actually draw your participation in and just be this continuous loop of growth that you really needed to really have the greatest impact for the region. So kudos to you guys. Amazing work here. Talk a little bit about the lessons learned. I mean, so many times nonprofits go through strategic planning. It's a part of the regular cycle of your work effort. But what were the big lessons learned or sort of the critical things that you would advise other nonprofits to think about when they're launching visioning and strategic planning?
Mm-hmm. One, I would say make sure your board is ready. I would hate to have done this and come up with this great plan only to get done with it and people would be like, okay, we're done, and then walk away. I know that's been one of my one of my concerns when we finished the plan in the first 90 days is, we did set out what are we going to do in the first 90 days to be sure that this plan starts to take off. And it's really meeting those goals and those initiatives and hitting those marks. Sometimes I feel like, this is a extensive process. I would say you can probably wear your board down a little bit through the process and they may need a little bit of a break when it's over. But so I would say, really be sure to, that you do have your buy-in, that, your board is ready to commit to change and not just talk about it. So that would be, I think, a big lesson learned. Another thing in this process is, there are people out there that are supporting you and are cheering you on that you don't even realize are out there doing it. And I would say that became very prevalent in this process as we reached out to different stakeholders, as we surveyed different people, seeing who responded. We had so many people from our city government that signed on to take part in some of those surveys from our local university, from our Chamber of Commerce. There are so many people that are out there that are wanting to see us succeed, some of which, I mean, not that I was surprised. I wasn't surprised by anybody, but I would say you all, that you have cheerleaders that you don't know about. And so that's something that I think through this process, I realized more than I already knew. I would say, gosh, other lessons learned, specifically about the planning part in creative vision. I was like, dream big. I don't think, I think the sky's the limit. And we certainly did. Um, I think you can't be afraid to say, yes, I want to be the anchor, claim it. Um, you're never going to get to that next phase if you think, well, gosh, I just don't think we can. I think when you're creating these plans, you really do have to shoot for the sky, because if you don't do that and set your goals high, then you're not going to get there. So that would be my big takeaways.
Okay, well said. Well said. I mean, just as we wrap up today, I know that we're at time. Just kudos to you, the board, and all those at the museum who participated in this process. I think your engagement of others, like getting those partners involved, the collaboration that you invited through the visioning and strategy process was fantastic. And then, like you said, think big, be bold. This is the time to imagine what if. And you invited all the participants to do that, but you didn't let that get you carried away. Then you architected a very realistic, measurable, strategic plan with specific goals and KPIs that would get you there. It's a stretch. It's going to be a major growth for you to go there, but very achievable. So we're really excited for you guys. And thank you so much for your partnership and teaming up with us. And it's just been great having you here today. So thanks so much for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for coming. And I would just say that the best decision we made in this process was hiring Bridge Innovates.
I didn't tell her to say that, guys. I mean,
No, she did not tell me to say that, but I can't say enough good things about working with Jenny and her team. They really took a group of people with a great big vision and a lot of heart, and gave us some structure and some direction to set us on a very good path. So
that's what we got to do. Just got to let the leaders lead. And that's exactly what you did. So congratulations, Lucy, to you and the board. We hope to continue to see amazing things for the Museum and Cultural Center at 5 Points. Have a great day.
you too.
Bye now.